Touchdown, Seahawks! Are you kidding me?
Number 10, we're down to the top 10, buddy. Here it is. The Great Hype. Oh. This is a wild one for Seahawk fans because it's quite possibly the biggest personality the team has ever seen. Still to this day. Maybe Richard Sherman? Maybe?
Yeah, I'd say he's probably pretty close to that.
But this guy was pretty insane. He was coming out of the University of Oklahoma, and he was a two-time Butkus Award winner in 1985 and 1986. And he was a unanimous pick for the All-American team as a linebacker in both of those years, in 85 and 86, as well as being a finalist for the Heisman Trophy in 1986. So he was the real deal back in college. But I would say he was probably one of the greatest hype guys of all time.
Whoever his team was to figure out how to hype him and get his image and his whole brand out there in the 80s too, when he looked like a bad guy from an 80s action movie or something. Just the whole style, they had it down to that whole the Boz thing. It was one of a kind, man. There's nothing else I'd ever seen like it before.
Yeah, he looked like a wrestler back in the day.
Yeah,
right.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, so just to put this in perspective, this guy is straight out of college, and he not only signs the biggest rookie contract in NFL history, but he also signs the biggest Seahawks contract in the history of the franchise. 10 years, $11 million, which sounds so tiny now, but back then it was huge, right?
Inflation.
So now Seattle at the time, we keep talking about this. It was a very different era. Seattle looked and felt so different than it is now. That town is drastically different than it was back in the 80s. And even the players. The players were a lot different too. Before the Boz, it was Kurt Warner, Jim Zorn, Steve Largent.
They were all very quiet, humble, hardworking. They really fit that blue-collar mentality. It wasn't this look at me before I've done a thing, which I think is kind of what rubs some of the Seattle fan base a little bit. I think we're optimistic, but then when things didn't go like we hoped.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. So, so when the Boz came to town, it's like a Hollywood actor coming into town. This guy stormed into town riding in helicopters. He had his blonde hair with his sides painted up. He wore those blue sunglasses. What were those glasses? Those
oh Jesus, blades or something. I don't know what they're called. Oakley blades.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he had these big muscles. He wore those cut-off shirts. He really was like a WWF player or like a WWF wrestler.
A bad guy that from a G.I. Joe cartoon or something. He had this thing down. It was crazy.
He had movie posters, books, T-shirts, and so on. It was Brian Bosworth mania. The kids loved him. I had friends who were I shook his hand, and he would whenever we played football. I don't know if you remember Kenny Tozer. Kenny Tozer. We'd play ball, and Kenny Tozer would be he'd make a tackle, and he'd get up, and he'd hold up his hand, and he goes, balls, because he shook his hand with that right hand. I was like, okay, man. So it was that kind of thing, right? He's like a superhero. But the hype just became that. It became hype. He had...
Hard for any human being to live up to that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, he had all these nagging injuries from college. He had that shoulder injury. And
I'm sure there's a lot of cortisone shots and things that we know now are not really good. They just cover up things that I'm sure he's just used and abused his body.
Yeah, I think the team doctor said that Boz was a 25-year-old man with the shoulders of a 60-year-old. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, we got some bad mojo in the Northwest with number one draft picks and stuff. You look at the Portland Trailblazers and things that, even Seattle, we missed on guys. Ugh.
Yeah, it's bad. So his career ended the following season in 1989, and he became, like you said, one of the biggest NFL draft busts of all time. But Ethan, what would you say Brian Bosworth is most famous for around the league and probably in Seattle as well?
Or getting his ass trucked by Bo Jackson on Monday Night Football.
And you and I were both at this game, which is amazing, which is astonishing.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. We were like kids.
Well, yeah, and remember that the Raiders were my second team too, which not many Seahawks fans can understand being a division rival. But my love of Howie Long, the silver and black. Obviously, after the early '80s, it's been nothing but pain, and I've kind of just renounced those fandoms just because it's just too hard. But yeah, this game was just incredible. Once again, one of the games where just the overall atmosphere was almost like riotous at the beginning of that game. I mean, it was just crazy.
It was nuts. I remember that game specifically, going to the bathrooms. They were a scary thing, man. Like they had those like long troughs.
Just a stale smell of
you'd walk in there,
beer, piss, and peanuts. It was just like, yeah.
If you didn't know, you'd walk in there like, which one's which the sink and where am I supposed to pee and where am I supposed to?
I think I peed in the sink once and got yelled at. I kid you not, man.
It was weird, man. I wonder if there's video of that just to like show people how odd it was. But yeah, so
very efficient though, very efficient.
Yeah, right.
The guy next to you could be drunk going over. So what are you packing? It's like, Jesus, man, give me some space.
Yeah. So and Boz, he could be ripped on for a lot, but what you can say about the Boz was that he was a master at promotions and marketing. He was like a boxing promoter who worked for himself. Like he once trash talked Denver Broncos quarterback John Elway before a game. And it's famous now, but before the game, he sold like 10,000 t-shirts to the Denver Bronco fans for like $15 a pop. And the t-shirts were pretty awesome because on the front said, "What's the Boz worth?" And it said, "Nothing." And on the back, it said, "Ban the Boz." So pretty creative, actually. Funny
even
t-shirts.
Even not himself, but selling it to me. Yeah, that's brilliant, man.
It's amazing. What's a Boz worth? Nothing.
That's pretty good in those Dr. Pepper commercials. So clearly he's got some talent there acting otherwise.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that was the great hype of Brian Bosworth, and it started out all crazy and wild, and then,
and went out with a whimper.
Yeah.
He was one of the best football players I've ever seen in my life in college.